Capricorn, what if I told you that something powerful has been circling your life for a while now, and that it's not chaos, it's precision. A force far greater than logic. A shift you didn't ask for. A secret you were never meant to know, until now. This message isn't random. It didn't arrive by coincidence. You didn't click this video by mistake. There's something your soul has known quietly, patiently, but your mind has not yet accepted. You've been feeling it, haven't you? That strange air of change. Like something is about to arrive, but you don't know from where. You're not chasing it. You're not forcing it. But still, it's coming. Capricorn, what's about to happen isn't just external, it's alchemical. There's a reason your emotions have been shifting. There's a reason you've been pulling away from familiar people, places, conversations. It's not you being distant. It's your intuition preparing you. And here's where the story truly begins. In the most unexpected moment, a sum of money arrives. A transfer, a refund, an overdue payment, or even an amount that wasn't meant for you, but somehow, it finds its way to your hands. You hesitate. You wonder, is this a test? Is this a trap? But deep inside, you know. This is karmic. It's the universe responding not to what you did last week, but what you've been carrying for years. It's the reward for your silence. For the times you kept going when no one clapped. For the loyalty you gave while others betrayed. This isn't money. It's a signal. But as the money lands, something else cracks open. A hidden truth. A message. A revelation that shakes the foundation beneath your feet. And now you're standing at a crossroads. You have a choice. Ignore the signs. Or follow them into the unknown. But here's what you need to understand. The money is not the blessing. The truth is. And that truth will push you. Into a journey you didn't plan. Into a departure you didn't expect. Into a version of yourself you've never met, but always needed to become. So don't walk away now, Capricorn. Because if you leave before the end, you'll miss the part that changes everything. Coming up, we'll dive into the unexpected arrival of wealth, the hidden betrayal that's been following you, and why the universe is pushing you to move physically, spiritually, and emotionally. Are you ready? Because this is where the transformation begins. Stay with me until the end. Because the final truth isn't just about money, it's about power. Your power. The one you're finally ready to claim. Part 1. The arrival of money without explanation. It doesn't come with fireworks. There's no grand announcement. No one calls you to say it's coming. And yet, there it is. An unexpected amount of money appears. It could be a refund you forgot, a payment you never counted on, a bonus you didn't anticipate, or simply a financial door opening without effort on your part. And in that exact moment, your first instinct isn't celebration. It's disbelief. Why now? Why like this? Why does it feel like a gift and a warning at the same time? Capricorn, let's be honest. You've worked harder than most. You've sacrificed when others complained. You've kept moving when everything inside you wanted to rest. But the world didn't always reward that, did it? You carried weight in silence. You supported others while doubting if anyone would support you. You've learned to live without expecting anything in return. And suddenly, here it is. This money, this gift, this shift. And it doesn't feel random. Why? Because it isn't. This isn't about the money. This is about recognition. Not from people, from the universe. What's arriving now is a vibrational response to everything you planted while no one was looking. You see, Capricorn, the world counts hours. But the universe counts energy. Every time you chose integrity over shortcuts. Every time you gave more than you received. Every time you stayed when it would have been easier to run. It was noted. Not in some cosmic scoreboard, but in the frequency you carried into every room. And money. It's just energy, a reflection of alignment. So this moment, this transfer, this deposit, this envelope isn't about luck. It's about divine timing. And now that it's here, what will you do? Will you hoard it? Will you fear it might disappear? Or will you recognize it for what it really is? A message wrapped in currency, not just a financial breath of relief, but a sacred signal that a cycle has turned. Because here's the deeper truth no one tells Capricorn. You're not being paid. You're being freed. Freed from scarcity. Freed from internal narratives of unworthiness. Freed from the idea that you always have to earn rest, love, care, and peace. This money doesn't come to reward you. It comes to shift you, to remind you, you've been sowing. And now, without asking, without expectation, you're reaping. And yet, hidden within this abundance, there's a ripple, a whisper, a disturbance in the energetic field. Because Capricorn, if you listen closely, you'll realize this money is only the beginning. There is something else traveling behind it. A truth, a revelation, a secret that has been waiting to be exposed. And when it surfaces, everything will change. But before we get there, ask yourself this. What if this money came not to support where you are, but to push you into where you need to be? Life lesson from part 1. Capricorn, true abundance doesn't shout, it arrives in silence. And often, it comes not to comfort you, but to activate you. When the universe gives unexpectedly, it's not giving for the past. It's giving for the next version of you that's about to emerge. So the real question is, will you receive this, not just in your hands, but in your identity? Part 2. You are being repaid silently. Capricorn, have you ever wondered why some things you do go unnoticed by everyone, but still linger in your heart like unfinished prayers? You showed up for people when no one else did. You paid for things without asking to be paid back. You carried emotional weights that weren't even yours to hold. You forgave when others didn't even realize they'd hurt you. And through all of it, you stayed quiet. Not because you didn't feel, but because you believed that being good shouldn't need to be seen. And so, the world went on. People moved on. Life moved forward. But something sacred was quietly taking shape beneath the surface. Energy. Every act of patience. Every tear you didn't let fall in public. Every moment you kept your integrity when it cost you something. They became energetic deposits. Stored not in banks, but in the spiritual accounts of your soul. Capricorn, the universe doesn't speak in currency. It speaks in consequence. It doesn't operate on your schedule, but it never forgets your essence. You are being repaid silently. That unexpected money, it's not random. It's not even just a reward. It's a release. A release of energetic debt the universe has owed you. And it's not just about bills or needs. It's about value. Your value. You've walked through seasons where your worth was overlooked. In love, in work, in friendship, even in family. You've watched others be praised for work you silently supported. You've heard your ideas echoed in other people's voices. You've smiled through rooms that didn't know how to honor you. But you didn't crumble. You didn't beg. You built. And now, the return begins. But here's the mysterious part. The universe rarely pays you in the same language you gave. You gave time. It might return as opportunity. You gave love. It might return as clarity. You gave trust. It might return as truth. You gave loyalty. It might return as a revelation that finally frees you. And yes, you gave effort. So now, the universe gives you movement. This money is movement. It's not just financial. It's spiritual lubrication. It's the key that unlocks your next step. It doesn't tell you what to do. It just removes the excuse not to do it. And deep inside, you already know what that step is. Maybe it's leaving. Maybe it's beginning. Maybe it's finally allowing yourself to want more without guilt. But make no mistake. You are not being given money. You are being given momentum. And momentum, Capricorn, is sacred for someone like you. Because you know how to carry weight. But now it's time to learn how to let energy carry you. So take a moment. Not to spend, but to acknowledge that this money isn't about the bills. It's about the balance. The scales are shifting. And not in favor of luck, but in favor of truth. Life lesson from part 2. Capricorn, the universe never forgets who you are, especially when the world does. Your energy never disappears. It waits. And then, it returns. With interest. In forms you didn't expect, but always deserved. So when you receive something today that feels too easy or out of nowhere, remember, it's not a gift. It's a mirror. And you're finally seeing your own worth reflected back. Part 3. The secret that shifts everything. Capricorn. Sometimes the truth doesn't knock. It cracks. It shows up in fragments. A misworded sentence. A glance that lingers too long. A message never meant for your eyes. And when it does, it doesn't ask if you're ready. It just appears. And the world you thought was solid begins to ripple. That's exactly what's about to happen. Or perhaps, if you're honest, it already has. That strange feeling you've been carrying, the one you couldn't name, it wasn't paranoia, it was intuition. Because something's been hidden from you, Capricorn. And it's not small. It's not the kind of secret that hurts your pride. It's the kind that tries to redirect your path. It's the kind that makes you question everything you trusted, including yourself. Maybe it's someone who hasn't been honest. A person who smiled to your face but masked their envy behind compliments. Maybe it's a family pattern you were never told. Or a workplace lie that explained why things never added up. Maybe it's a betrayal from someone you protected, even when they didn't deserve it. Whatever it is, it's surfacing now. And not because life wants to break you. No, because you've outgrown the lie. The truth is not punishment. It's a release. And like all powerful truths, this one arrives quietly. But once seen, it cannot be unseen. At first, it hurts. Deeply. It stings because it confirms what you hoped wasn't real. You remember all the moments you gave the benefit of the doubt. You rewatch the conversations in your head. The nights you stayed silent when your instincts screamed. The loyalty you gave, thinking it would be returned. And now, the mirror breaks. And in the reflection, you don't just see the lie. You see yourself. Not the naive version. Not the overly trusting one. Not the tired heart that hoped to be wrong. No. You see the version that has learned. That understands. That no longer needs to tolerate deception just to keep the peace. Capricorn, this moment isn't about revenge. It's about revelation. The lie was never about them. It was about keeping you small. Because when someone hides the truth from you, it's not always to protect you. Sometimes, it's to control the version of you that doesn't ask questions. The version of you that serves quietly, doubts rarely, and stays loyal endlessly. But that version is dying now. And in its place, a new Capricorn rises. One who sees. One who names. One who doesn't flinch when the veil falls. The secret that's coming to light may shift your direction. It may cause endings. It may bring distance between you and people you never imagined living without. But let this be clear. You are not being separated. You are being initiated. You are stepping into a timeline where truth is your compass. Not obligation, not guilt, and not fear. And once you live by truth, no lie, no matter how sweetly wrapped, can keep you bound again. You don't owe anyone your silence anymore. And you don't owe yourself the burden of pretending not to know. Life lesson from part 3. Capricorn, some truths don't come to hurt you. They come to free the version of you that's been locked behind loyalty. Not all loyalty is sacred. Some loyalty is survival. But now, you don't need to survive. You're here to live. Fully. Clearly. And aligned with what's real. The truth doesn't destroy. It reveals. And once it does, you're never the same again. Part 4. The emotional storm. Capricorn. There's a moment, right after the truth hits, where everything becomes still. But it's not peace. It's the eye of a storm. At first, you tell yourself, it's fine. I knew this already. You try to stay composed. You try to explain it away. You tell yourself not to overreact. Because that's how you've survived for years. By managing pain before it manages you. But deep down, something has cracked. And no amount of control, no strategy, no distraction can unfeel what you now know. This is the part where it hurts. Not just because of the lie, but because of what it cost you to believe it. All those days you doubted your gut. All those nights you stayed loyal. All the moments you sacrificed your peace to maintain a connection built on half-truths. Capricorn, you're not just grieving a person or a situation. You're grieving the part of you that needed it to be true. The part of you that said, maybe I'm overthinking. The part that silenced your own wisdom for the sake of being fair. And now, the grief rises like a tide. You may feel angry. Angry that someone didn't value your honesty. Angry that they mistook your silence for weakness. Angry that you protected a version of them that never protected you. But beneath the anger is something deeper. A profound sadness. Because Capricorn, you're not heartless. You're guarded. And when you finally let someone in, it means something. So when that trust is broken, it doesn't just bruise the moment. It bruises memory. It bruises identity. It makes you question if you were ever truly seen. And that's what this storm is really about. Not vengeance. Not rage. Not punishment. But the quiet ache of emotional clarity. You realize you've been loyal to an illusion. And the weight of that realization is heavy. But Capricorn, here is where everything changes. You feel it. You let it. And you don't run from it. Because this time, you're not shoving your emotions into a box labeled deal with later. You're opening it. You're standing in the rain of your own truth. You're letting the tears come, not as weakness, but as cleansing. And in that moment, a strange strength begins to rise. Not the usual Capricorn strength, the one that pushes through no matter what. This one is different. Softer. Wiser. Unapologetic. You begin to say things you've kept inside for years. You no longer try to explain your pain to those who caused it. You no longer shrink to make others comfortable. You realize that emotional storms don't come to drown you. They come to dismantle the structures that were never real. And once the storm passes, you're not washed out. You're clean. You're no longer weighed down by what they did. You're no longer confused about what it meant. You're no longer trapped in the illusion of what could have been. Instead, you're left with what is. Clear. Unshakable. Honest. And from here, something new begins to form. Life lesson from part 4. Capricorn, feeling the storm is not a step back. It's a step deeper. Pain doesn't mean you've lost control. It means you're finally letting truth move through you. You've held so much for so long. But now, it's safe to let go. And when you do, you don't break. You become whole. Part 5. The signs you're being called to move. Capricorn. Once the emotional storm passes, there's a stillness that feels different. Not numb. Not empty. But open. And in that openness, the signs begin. They don't arrive like thunder. They're not announcements. They're whispers. A name that repeats. A location that keeps appearing in conversations, dreams, or even on receipts. A memory that resurfaces out of nowhere. A sudden irritation with places that once felt familiar. You may find yourself unable to rest in your own home. You may catch yourself standing in a room and feeling misaligned. Not unsafe. Just no longer meant to be here. And that's because you're being called. Capricorn, the universe is precise. It doesn't just give you money and truth to leave you where you are. It gives you both to activate movement. But here's what no one tells you about divine movement. It often begins with irritation, restlessness, subtle internal dissonance. You start noticing patterns you can't unsee. You hear your own voice say, "This isn't mine anymore." And you may not know where you're going. But you know you can't stay here. The signs are small at first. A job offer in a different city. A friend's invitation to visit. A dream about a place you've never been but feel deeply connected to. Then they get louder. Technology glitches that delay you just enough to meet someone new. An accidental booking. An email you didn't mean to open that leads you to an opportunity. Or simply a sensation in your gut that refuses to be quiet. Capricorn, you're not imagining this. You're being moved, not just physically, but spiritually repositioned. And here's the wild part. It's not about where you go. It's about what you leave behind. The space, the energy, the version of you that only existed in that environment. Because some rooms are too small for the soul you're becoming. And you don't even need to know the full plan. You just need to say yes to the next step. Capricorn, your energy is shifting. Your tolerance for just okay is dissolving. Your longing for clarity is magnetizing new landscapes toward you. Don't resist it. Even if it doesn't make sense yet. Even if it seems impulsive. Even if people around you don't understand. They don't have to. Because this calling, it's not for them. It's for you. The same intuition that protected you. That warned you about the secret. That whispered through the emotional storm. Is now guiding you to move. Not to run away, but to rise into your next environment. The one that matches your current vibration. The one that was always waiting. For the version of you that finally chose truth. Life lesson from part 5. Capricorn, movement doesn't always begin with clarity. It begins with alignment. When your soul outgrows a space, you don't need permission to leave. You just need permission from yourself to trust the signs. The path won't be perfect, but it will be sacred. And once you answer the call, you'll realize the destination was never random. It was always written. Part 6. The physical journey begins. There comes a moment when signs no longer whisper. They press. They tug at your routines. They interrupt your mornings. They echo in the silence after every conversation. And Capricorn, that's when the real journey begins. You start packing, but not just your belongings. You're packing the pieces of a life you once fit into. A version of yourself that did its best in the environment it was given. And now, you're saying goodbye. But here's the truth few will admit. It's not the leaving that's hard. It's the space in between. The days when you've already let go, but haven't yet arrived. That's where the test begins. Capricorn, you may find yourself staring out a window, asking, what am I walking into? Am I prepared? Is this really necessary? And the answer won't come in words. It comes in the air, in the weight you feel lifting as each mile puts distance between you and your old life. The road doesn't always offer comfort. Sometimes, it offers clarity. You notice things you hadn't before. The way you breathe differently in new air. The tension in your shoulders slowly fading. A song plays on the radio and suddenly, your chest opens. You realize, you haven't felt that in months. Maybe years. Because this journey, it's not about escape. It's about resonance. Capricorn, you've been strong for so long in environments that didn't see you. That didn't hear you. That only valued what you gave, but never nourished who you are. But now, you're entering spaces that feel like they were built for your breath. New places. New timing. New eyes watching you not to judge, but to recognize. You arrive in a city, or a room, or even a temporary space. And something clicks. Not because it's perfect, but because it feels clean. Unwritten. Uncontaminated by who they thought you were. Here, you don't have to be the strong one. You don't have to explain your healing. You just have to allow it. Capricorn, the physical journey may be short on a map, but energetically, it's monumental. You're not just changing address. You're changing frequency. The money wasn't to fix your past. It was to fund your becoming. And as you sleep in a new bed, hear unfamiliar sounds. Wake up to light falling differently through a new window. You'll realize, you didn't move because you were broken. You moved because you were becoming too whole to stay. This is the version of you that no longer fits into rooms that shrink your spirit. And yes, some will say you've changed. And you have. But you'll stop needing to defend it. Because for the first time, you feel in rhythm with your own life. Not surviving. Not managing. But moving. With purpose. With grace. With eyes open. And no apologies. Because Capricorn, you didn't leave. You were sent. Life lesson from part 6. Change is not always dramatic. Sometimes it's as quiet as packing a bag and driving away without telling anyone why. But the soul knows. And that's enough. Where you're headed isn't about perfection. It's about alignment. You're not chasing freedom. You're finally living it. Part 7. New encounters that confirm the truth. Capricorn. The universe rarely lets you walk into a new chapter without confirmation. And those confirmations, they don't always come through signs or symbols. Sometimes, they come as people. You sit down at a quiet cafe, somewhere unfamiliar but oddly calming. A stranger asks to share your table. The conversation begins casually, but within minutes, it veers into territory you didn't expect. They say something. A sentence, a phrase, a name. And it lands exactly where your pain has been hiding. And in that moment, you realize, they're not random. You're not meeting them by chance. You're meeting them because you've shifted into a timeline where these kinds of people now recognize your energy. It's not what they look like. It's what they carry. Wisdom. Presence. A calm that doesn't need to dominate the room to be felt. Capricorn, for so long, you've surrounded yourself with people who needed your strength, who admired your endurance, who clung to your silence. But now, you're meeting people who mirror your growth, not your pain, and that changes everything. Someone shares their story, and it's uncannily similar to your own. You feel understood without having to explain. You laugh a little louder. You breathe a little deeper. And for a moment, you wonder how long it's been since you felt this light. But these encounters aren't just pleasant. They're activating. They remind you of who you're becoming. They speak to the part of you that used to whisper, but is now beginning to roar. They don't drain you. They charge you. Capricorn, this is the universe confirming. You made the right move. Even if you were scared. Even if you felt alone. Even if you doubted yourself at every step. You're now walking a path where others are aligned not to your wounds, but to your truth. Some may only stay for a moment, but their impact lasts longer than most people who stayed for years. These souls don't need explanations. They need presence. And yours is enough. You'll know them when they speak. Not because they say something profound, but because their words echo something you've already decided within yourself. They don't complete you. They confirm you. You'll leave these moments lighter, clearer, more certain than ever that you're on the right path. And in those moments, Capricorn, you'll no longer question whether you were meant to move, because the answer will be sitting right in front of you, smiling, sipping coffee, and unknowingly handing you a mirror. Life lesson from Part 7. When you raise your frequency, the people in your life begin to shift. Some fall away. Some appear out of nowhere. But all of them are messengers. Capricorn, let these encounters remind you. The version of you who doubted their intuition has been replaced by one who follows it without fear. The right people don't need to be chased. They arrive when you show up as your whole self. Part 8. The deeper layer of the secret. Capricorn, just when you think you've processed the truth, when you believe you've seen all there is to see, another layer reveals itself. And it's not louder. It's quieter, more subtle, but far more significant. This is the moment where the initial secret, the lie, the betrayal, the withheld truth, begins to expand. You realize it wasn't just one person. It wasn't just one moment. It was part of a system, a pattern, a network of energies that had been silently working to keep you doubtful, small, and obedient. Capricorn, this is where the spiritual anatomy of your past begins to expose itself. You remember conversations that never made sense, gestures that felt off, but you ignored. You think back to decisions made on your behalf without your input, and you begin to see the architecture of manipulation. This wasn't just a secret. This was a design, a quiet mechanism to control the light you carry, to distort how you see yourself, to clip your wings before you realized they were made to fly. And the most painful part, it almost worked. But now, with distance and clarity, you see the entire blueprint. And it doesn't shatter you. It frees you. Because knowledge, real, unfiltered knowledge, is the most powerful kind of emancipation. You realize that the universe didn't just want you to know someone lied. It wanted you to understand why you believed it. That's the deeper layer. It's not about their deception. It's about your readiness to no longer participate in it. Capricorn, this is where your healing shifts from emotional to existential. You're not just recovering from betrayal. You're unraveling the threads of an old identity, one that tolerated too much, stayed too long, explained itself to people who never intended to understand. And as the truth deepens, something ancient within you rises. Your voice, your boundary, your non-negotiable self. You begin to see that forgiveness isn't about accepting what happened. It's about reclaiming what was taken when it happened. You forgive not to let them off the hook, but to release yourself from the web they never had the right to spin around you. You don't seek closure, because you're no longer willing to re-enter their story to get it. Capricorn, this is the layer where many turn back. Because it's tempting to say, I've seen enough. I've healed enough. I've changed enough. But not you. You keep going. Because deep down, you know, the only way to never be manipulated again is to understand exactly how and why it ever worked. Not to blame yourself, but to awaken. This layer of truth is not about pain. It's about power. And now that you see it all so clearly, there's no return. Only forward. Only upward. Only deeper into your own sovereignty. Life lesson from part 8. Truth has layers. And the most liberating truths aren't always the first ones revealed. They're the ones that come after you've decided to face what others avoid. Capricorn, the deeper the truth, the higher the power it returns to you. Don't fear the next layer, because everything it exposes was already influencing you. Now, you're finally free to choose differently. Part 9. Reclaiming your energy and voice. Capricorn, there is a moment in every awakening when silence is no longer sacred. It's suffocating, and you reach a point where your body, your voice, your soul, can no longer remain small just to keep others comfortable. This is that moment. You've observed long enough. You've absorbed more than enough. You've waited for apologies that never came, and you've played roles that were never truly yours. Now, the quiet no longer feels like peace. It feels like a prison. Capricorn, this is where you begin to reclaim your energy, not by making noise for the sake of it, but by finally letting your truth be heard. You don't need to shout. You don't need to convince anyone. You simply begin to speak with the calm authority of someone who no longer needs permission. You say no, not with guilt, but with clarity. You say yes, not out of obligation, but from inner alignment. You take your energy out of conversations that drain you, out of relationships that control you, out of roles that reduce you. And as you do, something strange happens. People notice. They feel the shift. They sense that you are no longer available for their projections. You're no longer the helper without boundaries. You're no longer the one who stays silent just to avoid confrontation. You're no longer the fixer of emotional messes you didn't create. Capricorn, this is your return to self. And in this return, you begin to realize that you had power all along. You just gave it away slowly, one compromise at a time. But now, you're collecting those pieces. Your time, your attention, your instinct, your intuition, your authority. You take them back, not with vengeance, but with reverence. You stop asking, do they understand me? And instead ask, do I feel understood by myself? You stop asking, am I being too much? And start asking, why have I allowed myself to be less? You speak, even if your voice shakes, even if others fall away, even if it means standing alone for a while. Because standing in your truth, even alone, is more powerful than staying in a room that denies it. This isn't rebellion. This is realignment. You're not burning bridges. You're walking away from bridges that only ever led you in circles. You're not cutting people off. You're choosing to stop bleeding for people who never learned to hold you with care. And most importantly, you're no longer defining yourself by who hurt you, but by how you choose to heal. Capricorn, reclaiming your voice doesn't make you difficult. It makes you undeniable. You are no longer waiting for the world to notice your worth. You are becoming someone who no longer needs to be noticed to feel worthy. Life lesson from part 9. Your voice is not a weapon. It's a mirror. It reflects how much of yourself you've chosen to honor. Capricorn, your energy is sacred. And the moment you choose to protect it, the world begins to rearrange around your decision. Not everyone will celebrate this new version of you, but the ones who matter won't be afraid of your power. They'll rise to meet it. Part 10. The return, but never the same again. Capricorn, at some point in every journey, there is a return, a coming back, a re-entry into what seems like the same life you once knew. But here's what no one tells you. You can go back to the same place, but you'll never experience it the same way again. Because you've changed. You walk into the same room, but the air feels different. You pass familiar faces, but something in their eyes can't quite meet yours the same way. It's not distance, it's recognition. They see it. Even if they don't understand it, even if they can't name it, they feel that you've crossed a threshold. And you have. Capricorn, you're not just returning. You're returning transformed. Gone is the person who over-explained. Gone is the version of you that waited for signs to believe in themselves. Gone is the quiet compromise. Now, you move with inner stability, not because life is suddenly perfect, but because you are no longer seeking external approval to feel grounded. You make different choices now, not out of defense, but from discernment. You don't rush to say yes. You don't fear saying no. You don't shrink in rooms that once made you feel small. You simply stand. In your energy. In your center. In your knowing. And from this space, you begin to rebuild. Not out of urgency, but with intention. Your relationships change. You no longer chase. You no longer wait for reciprocity. You embody it. And if it isn't mirrored back, you keep moving. Your work changes. You're no longer driven by validation. You're driven by value. The kind that honors your time, your energy, and your purpose. Even your silence changes. It's no longer used to avoid conflict. It's used to preserve clarity. Capricorn, returning doesn't mean reverting. It means reclaiming your space from a place of evolution. You understand now that the journey wasn't about escaping the old. It was about outgrowing it. So that when you returned, you'd never fit into the old mold again. And here's the most powerful part. You don't need the world to change, because you are the change. And from this place of quiet certainty, life begins to move differently around you. Not because you demanded it, but because you no longer settle for less than what aligns. Life lesson from part 10. Coming back isn't weakness. It's integration. It's the sacred act of bringing wisdom home. Capricorn, you've traveled far. Not just across miles, but across versions of yourself. And now, with clearer eyes, a stronger spine, and an open heart, you're ready not just to live, but to lead. Not with force, but with frequency. Because the world doesn't change through noise. It changes when someone like you returns, rooted in truth, radiating power, and quietly, unmistakably, unapologetically, whole. Conclusion: the secret was never about them, it was always about you. Capricorn, you thought this began with money, and then the truth came. Then came movement. Then came silence. Then came power. But now you see it, don't you? This journey was never about the secret. It was never really about them. The betrayal, the silence, the shift, the absence, the surprise, the discomfort. It was all designed carefully, precisely, to bring you back to yourself. To the version of you that doesn't trade truth for belonging. To the version of you that doesn't ask for validation to take up space. To the version of you that doesn't water down your essence just to be tolerated. Capricorn, You are not here to fit in. You are here to redefine what power looks like. And you do it not by shouting, but by standing still in your truth. You do it by honoring the parts of you that kept going, even when no one clapped, even when no one believed, even when no one stayed. The secret that came to light, it wasn't your punishment, it was your permission to move, to detach, to become, to reclaim. The money was never just a blessing. It was an energetic confirmation, a resource given not to reward you, but to activate you. Because the version of you that emerged from this, the one listening now, can no longer be moved by fear, can no longer be bought with false comfort, can no longer be manipulated by small love dressed in obligation. You've outgrown what kept you small, and now you walk forward not just lighter, but clearer. You know who you are, and you'll never forget again. So let this be your final declaration. You do not owe anyone the dimming of your fire. You do not owe explanations for your evolution. You do not need to defend the boundaries that saved your life. And you will not apologize for becoming the version of yourself that the world tried so hard to keep hidden. Capricorn, this is your return. Not to them, not to before, but to yourself. And this time, you're not walking, you're rising. Final life lesson. Growth is not always loud. Sometimes, it's a single decision made in the quiet. To never abandon yourself again. And that, Capricorn, is the most powerful thing you can do. If this message spoke to your soul, don't just listen. Declare it. Leave a comment below. I, Capricorn, return to my power and will never abandon it again. Then subscribe to Zodiac Secrets Revealed. Because this is only the beginning. Your evolution is sacred. Your voice is needed. And your journey has only just begun.